All right, we are live. What's up, everybody? Amanda, go ahead and take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Drew, CJ.
Good morning.
So I'm very excited. I told you in the post yesterday, Drew DeMaree is a productivity coach like none other. And we're very, very lucky to be interviewing him today. Drew is with the Keller Midlothian. I hope I pronounced that right.
It's a weird name, yeah. It's Richmond, Virginia. It's a little suburb.
Yes, and I had the pleasure of meeting Drew on an airplane on the way back from one of the KW events many years ago. Yeah. I was so fortunate to be seated next to you, and I think I talked to you nonstop the whole time. You probably couldn't wait to get off.
It was awesome. No, it was a win-win, is what we always like to say. It was super fun.
I got to know you quite well, and then started to follow you and your Motivational Mondays. So I'm going to hand it over to Drew DeMaree. Thank you so much for being here for our coaching corner.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm here just to hopefully provide as much value as I can to everybody who's watching. Right, like what I said, I'm a productivity coach. So most people go, "What the heck is that?" So I help real estate agents, either the new ones really launch their career, or I take the higher producing agents and like kick it up a notch. And so we just dive into what this life in the world of real estate is all about. And then now we have this thing called COVID, which has been kind of crazy. So, but I've been doing this role for 5 years, but I've been a licensed real estate just at 15 years. So crazy journey.
Your role, you're killing it. So
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what it looked like when you first went into the market center and what your role was and how your role has now morphed into so much more in coaching.
Yeah, so maybe before you go into that,
sure.
So market center is a Keller Williams office for people who aren't Keller Williams agents. So Drew is essentially as a coach within a brokerage. Is essentially the brokerage hires him to be the coach. They're like in-house coach basically, right, Drew? You can expand on that.
Yeah, we're definitely I'll do really as much as I can to not do we have some crazy language. So we talk like aliens at KW, hence the KW part, right? Because we have just all these acronyms. So yeah, I actually, you probably read my bio, but basically I was a real estate agent, just like most of the people that are watching. My wife and I moved to the Richmond, Virginia area. And really, I had to restart my business because I was in a different part of Virginia and moved here. So I jumped back in sales, which I love. Was on what we call the Agent Leadership Council, which is the top 20% in our office. And so I just really got to know the agents in our office, and I just fell in love with everything that our office brought to the table. And I got a call one day, and the person that runs our office, she said, "Hey, do you want to be this coach?" And I said, to be honest with you, I said, "Hell no, I'm good. I want to still rock what I'm doing. I want to run my team. I want to sell real estate. That's my passion." And she said, "Would you give it a try for like 6 months?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And 6 months in, I started with 5 real estate agents. And I thought, they're never going to listen to me. What do I know? All these limiting beliefs in my head. And then it just took from 5. And then within 30 to 45 days, we went to 25 agent. And then 6 months in, I was like, I got to figure out how to transition my team because I love this coaching thing. Like, I love how it just jazzes me and jacks me up when they get their listings or when they overcome a limiting belief. So the rest is history. So now I have 65 agents that I coach. It varies up and down depending on how they enter in. I have 2 additional coaches and 4 mentors. So we run it like a mega team. So we have an amazing operations manager, marketing. We have a client care coordinator. So we kind of run this, what now is a machine. It used to be a one-man shop with 5 agents. And now it's just kind of the grind, but it's such a fun opportunity for sure. So there you go.
So you have 65 agents that you're currently coaching, you and your team, I guess we'll call it.
Yep. We've had, I think of the max we've had so far is like 75, but we're at 65 right now. Coming people on board, people exit out based on their production. So yeah.
How many people are in your total office?
We have 190, roughly 190. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So you have a pretty big percentage of people that are in there.
Yeah. And it's a ton of different production levels. So I think something that I thought naively was, hey, a coach is for a new person to figure out the ropes, right? I would say like tie their shoes. And that's not at all the case. I mean, NFL players have coaches, and actually multiple coaches, and I have a mastery coach. So I very quickly learned that it just got me personally up to the next level in my business. And I've seen that exponentially, with all the agents I coach. Yeah.
So, I have a bazillion questions for you now that you rattle off some of your bio. So just to start, so give us some like basics. What do you have your agents do that are in your coaching program? Like, give us some general stuff that no matter the market, no matter this, no matter that, what's your bread and butter that you guys coach on?
Well, I think the funny thing is that you think all real estate agents know that they're business owners, but then sometimes they don't think like that. So the first thing that we focus on is their mindset, which is my motivational Mondays. Like we're adults, and yet we're always taught to, like, I guess as a small age, to live in this box. You can't do that. You can't do that. And most of the people that have done that in our lives is because they want to protect us. So the first thing we do is break down with our business professionals, like, what is your goals and what is the plan to get there? And it's surprising that a lot of times their goals are so small because they're not thinking big. So our first egg we have to crack is right here in the brain is, how do you think big? And some of us aren't exposed to big thinkers or big models or big systems. And sometimes they're like, I want to sell 5 houses, and that's okay. Yet could you sell 50, or what would it look like to sell 50? So I think that's our first foundational piece. We have a foundation coach, and she's phenomenal at that. So we build systems and models around thinking bigger. We use tools inside our office that build a business plan and a roadmap. And so that's our initial start. So that would be my first piece of advice is you got to start with a plan, and it's got to be written down. It can't be just some pipe dream. It has to be written down. So that's our first step, regardless of what production level you are. And surprising, the ones that are higher producing don't have a written plan. You think they maybe do, but there may be this thing called winging it. So
yeah, I think a lot of agents naturally are just so entrepreneurial that they can wing it and do really some super numbers, right?
Sure.
But it's all about the plan and having a plan for growth. So what does it look like when an agent sits down and says, okay, I'm ready for productivity coaching? Are there different levels, or is there something that they all start at? How does that look for an agent? And what kind of commitment do they have around that?
So we, at the initial start of our client base, we said, it was only one level, but we really have we break ours now into 5 different levels. So we have different stages, different levels of accountability, we have mentors and we have additional coaches. So we always truly takes a village. But so we do a needs analysis, just like you would do with a buyer or a seller, right? And then we would decide, hey, are you in what we call foundation or concentration or momentum or stabilization or mastery? So we look at those 5 levels. And because again, if you're producing agent, let's say you're a $10 million producer, I don't need to teach you or coach you how to do an open house, right? You may be at kind of a mastery level, but could we look at that lead source and say, are you really squeezing all the juice out of that lead source? What systems do you have to make it more efficient? And a lot of times, so that's a long answer, but it depends on where you are in your real estate experience. We believe that coaching should be a customized experience. It shouldn't be cookie cutter, because our personalities are different. So like, I love for sale by owners, like that's my jam. I know some of the agents that I've coached in the past, they like physically shake. They like, I can't call FSBOs. They'll scare the crap out of me. And so we have to figure out what makes sense for them. So we focus on, a custom approach for sure.
Okay. So I have a question. So let's just say I'm an agent in your office. I come to you and I say, Drew, my business is down and I'm struggling right now with the COVID stuff. I'm not doing as much production as I would normally in May. What should I do?
Well, the first thing is, what are you doing now, right? Like, what activities are you physically doing now? And are they actually effective in our current time? And so we kind of have a saying that comes from, Gary Keller, which is the company I work for. He talks about the rhythm and your rhythm and your rhyme. Like, you got a routine in your rhythm, right? So you've got to develop a routine, and then you have to have a rhythm to it, right? Well, our routines have been altered like crazy. Like we used to drive to the office and like talk and have buyers and seller consultations at the kitchen table. So I would say the first thing we have to really, when the first thing happened, the first 2 weeks, we were meeting one-on-one, well, Zoom or whatever platform, to be able to reevaluate what is your routine, what is your new routine, and what is your new rhythm. And I think the agents that embrace that the fastest, we've seen them skyrocketing. It's crazy. Our numbers, I mean, our goals, we're 2 units away from hitting our pending transactions for the month of May. And I said, hey, let's up our game. We bumped it up 10 more units. So I think if you find a routine and you find the rhythm in COVID, when you come out of this, geez, man, your ceiling is unlimited. So I would say that's the first thing that we focused on is, what's your routine? Like, and it's maybe even weird stuff like, where's your laptop? What's your new office look like? We often call it a bunker. What time do you wake up? And maybe that seems elementary or basic, but our whole world like literally got flipped on its head. And so we had to figure out what is our new routine? What is our rhythm? Now what we're talking about is, after we get out of this, what will the routine and rhythm be in the future? Will technology and all this digital stuff enhance our experiences with our consumers? So I think those 2 words sums up what we're really focusing on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love that, because it's I think it's what you're talking about is what's their new rhythm. It's like the agents who adapt, they're going to be and are okay with the change. They're going to be the ones to get ahead faster. Like, things have changed, and if you don't embrace it, you're going to be left behind, right?
I mean, you're a dinosaur. I mean, you will just be extinct. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but you really have to, change is hard for all of us, right? I mean, it's never, I don't think often many of us think in a way that are like, oh, we love change, but you have to change.
I do.
I love that. But most of us, you may have the fear behind it, you may have the thought first, and then the second thought is what you react to. But change is always hard. But you want to be in this business because you want to help people, and that's the thing. I think I love we talked about this in some of the coaching we did the last couple of days. Is like, what is the gift that COVID has created for our industry? And they were all like, well, I don't know. And I said, it's actually the gift is that we actually are in the human business, not the housing business.
Right.
And that's actually how we've always been. That's what and unfortunately in our industry, we kind of get cliched as the car salesman or the used car salesman or this, nobody wants to be that, right? But I think it's allowed us to do care calls and connect with people and crazy, like drop off toilet paper on somebody's front door. That's weird.
Yeah, what a pop by that one.
Yeah, it was like crazy. Who the heck needed toilet paper, right?
Toilet paper, wow.
But people they're opening up to us. Our consumers are opening up to us and telling us things that they never have told us before about their finances. Because sometimes when we talk about money, they get weird. But they're telling us, hey, how can I cut my expenses? What can I do? I think that's a huge opportunity, and that'll create that rhythm and routine that we've never experienced in our industry. With all the tragedies of, similar to 9/11, this one's different. So.
And I think also it's a whole new experience. And you said about a plan. It's kind of a new plan, isn't it? And we know in Keller Williams language, we talk about our 30-day plan, our 60-day plan, our 90-day plan. And looking forward, it's now like, what is that experience for the consumer going to look like, not only virtually, but physically, as we bring up physical contact back in. So we're almost rewriting the next 3 months, right? And coaching is a part of being able to decipher the path to where you need to go that's going to lead you to the success that you want. You want a paycheck, not a bill, in 60 days.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes when you're in the trenches, you can't see the forest through the trees, right? So I always kind of give the analogy, if you've ever been in a car accident, most of the time you didn't see the car coming that hit you. Like, the coach is the outside perspective that says, hey, watch out for that. Hey, this is a system or a model that I learned in Ohio or in Florida or in Texas, and maybe you should implement it in your local community. So it's a bird's eye view. It's a different perspective. Any coach that you've ever seen sports related, the coach isn't playing the game. The coach is on the sideline and looking at where your foot is or where you're holding the ball, because that's the perspective you need. And when you're dealing with something like COVID, it's been an interesting perspective. I do feel that my people that were the most positive and they were the most joyful and their mindset was so great, they were wrecked by COVID for the first 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, I felt like more of a therapy. I felt like I needed a couch in my office because they were just stressed about they can't talk to their people and they did open houses and they love the interaction with humans. And so what did that look like? And we had to really be resourceful to kind of bring some light back to what they felt like was a dark time. And then the cool thing is humans are resilient. Humans figure stuff out. They figure it out quick. Yeah.
Drew, so I have a question. What do you see is for the agents that you coach, what do you see as the biggest challenge or gap in their business, and what's the solution to that challenge?
Consistency.
Tell me more.
Consistency. I break it apart in 3 parts. Actually, this is not from me. This is from some of the training that we have in our organization. But you have lead generation, you have your follow-up, and then you have your transaction business. So that's really our quote.
What were those again? What were the 3? What is it?
Lead generation, follow-up, and then transaction. And I always joke, I was actually just on a Zoom a few minutes ago and I write them down so I do LG, I do FU, and then TR, right? And so the FU actually is the largest part or segment of our business. So lead generation, we talk about that, and it's obviously very different in COVID, but that's huge. You have to have the leads or you don't have any follow-up. But follow-up is probably 70% of our business. And then you have the transaction part where deals get a little crazy and then people lose their job and home inspection repair addendums. So I think the consistency in all 3 is hard. And so you're literally juggling 3 balls all the time in this business. And so we really coach to how do you create systems for all 3 of those? What's your lead generation system? Meaning, where do you get your leads to begin with? Maybe it's open houses and FSBOs, and maybe it's sphere of influence. But maybe that's for me. Maybe yours is slightly different. And then what's your follow-up system? Are you going to use a database or a platform that automates some of that follow-up? Or do you have an assistant that's going to do that? Or is it all you? And then your transaction stuff. So I think that's what I would say is consistency in those 3 things. And it's not easy. But it's the beauty of this is when you start to figure that stuff out, you're sealing doubles, triples. I mean, I've coached $10 million producers and got them to 25 million. And it's because they've got those 3, and always room for improvement. But that's I think the secret sauce in this business, in my opinion.
I love it. That's great. So what if I don't know, let's just say I'm a year in the business. I'm doing okay, but I feel like I haven't really found my lead generation strategy that really speaks to me. I've been doing open houses. I haven't really been able to convert everybody. I feel like I'm just sort of there. What advice would you give me if I need to find that lead gen strategy I really thrive at?
Sure. So the first thing is that I call it hopping on lily pads. Have you tried all of the lead sources and you've only been on it for 5 minutes? So somebody they'll say, I'm going to call 4 subway owners. And they're like, oh, great. So we obviously, first thing we have to say, what are the scripts? What are the objections? What's your presentation? What's your marketing? What's your value proposition to that lead source, right? So they got all that. Let's just assume they've got that. And then they make 5 phone calls and they go, hey, Drew, that didn't work. They rejected me. So I would say, first of all, you need to make sure you stay in that lead source long enough to know. And we always say it's about 3 months minimum. First month is you figuring out what those systems are to be efficient in that lead source. Second is do the work. And the third month is evaluation and say, okay, did I have the right scripts? Did I really conquer the objections the way I was taught and coached to do? And am I committed to doing it? If I'm scared to death every day, real estate should be fun. And so if you have a lead source that you wake up every single day and you're literally scared to death, which I've physically had agents where they're like, shake, you know what, let's find your jam. Let's find what brings joy to your life that creates contribution, but still creates a lead source for you. I have so many agents that again started with a lead source. 3 months in, we're like, this isn't working. So let's pivot or change to a different lead source. And then they just found the spark. And the light bulb turned on and they had energy. And then guess what? Leads flowed like crazy. And then, so I would say, first of all, you got to pick 3 levers or 3 legs of a stool. People say it many different ways, but pick 3. I think sphere of influence should always be one. even if you have a small one, you can grow it because you love on your people. They're going to give you, it's giver's gain. You give to them, they'll gain back. The second one has to be listing focus. It has to be a high concentration on quantity of getting listings, because in my opinion, through the 15 years of being a real estate agent, that gives you, it doubles down on your leads. You get a sign in the yard, but you get to pick up a couple leads, literally quote for free. And then the third one is whatever you want to do.
What are some examples of some listing focused lead generation?
So there's tons of them, but I mean, obviously for sale by owners, expireds are probably the coined typical ones. But that's not always the case, but farming, geo-farming has been a huge one for us. People think that interesting, they think direct mail marketing is dead, and that's actually not true. Effective direct mail marketing has to be hyper local. It actually has to be what we call sticky. So don't send me some stupid postcard that says, change your air filters. What? I can Google, like, it needs to be sticky with this many houses have sold in my community, or, hey, this is the local fireworks display that's going on, or this is the marching band at your local high school, right? So it needs to be sticky. So farming has been a huge one. And now it's becoming even more digitally enhanced with emails and social media connection. So that's been one for sure. That's probably the one that we've seen the most effective efficiency, especially even through COVID. So farming, FSBOs, expireds, and then also business to business networking. That one's a huge one for us, especially now in COVID. There are businesses, small business in your local community that need your help. You are the connector of your community. And so if you connect a restaurant or just a lawn guy or something that his business is dropped because of this COVID stuff, and you're helping him out, it's huge. So we see that really listing leads come from those vendors. So my painter, my electrician, and my carpet guy are like magic to me, right? Because they're in the houses, they're cleaning the houses, they're painting the houses. And then you have to just help them with the dialogue. I don't like to use the word script because I think that sounds like we're actors. The dialogue is, you need to coach them through that and say, Mr., when you're painting someone's house, could you ask some open-ended questions like, hey, why are you painting your house? It's yellow and now you're changing it to gray. Are you thinking about selling it? What's the plan? And they may say, no, just wanted to change the color. But they also may say it was rented and now I'm thinking about selling it. And so getting your key partners. So I would say farming and business to business have been a key thing that we've focused on and seen high success in, no matter COVID or no COVID.
So Drew, if I'm an agent listening to this and I don't have the luxury of having a productivity coach in my office or a coaching program in my office, because we know the Keller Williams models are that we have them and they're available. So how would that look for someone that just doesn't have it? Where would they start?
Well, it's going to sound like a simple, crazy answer, but called YouTube. There's so many amazing people out there that know what they're saying. There's some YouTube that I'm like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. So be careful about that. But you know what? If you can't afford a coach, first of all, I would say you can't afford not to have a coach, in my opinion. Right. It's an investment, not a cost. I won't get on my soapbox with that. But YouTube, there's Audibles, there's podcasts. The cool thing about what has happened to our industry in just 3 to 5 years is technology has stepped in and allowed us to have some cool acts. I mean, I'm listening to podcasts. We were talking about a podcast before we went live, and I'm learning something from some mega agents, some high producing agents that I would never naturally be exposed to because technology has allowed me to subscribe to his podcast. I mean, it's crazy. So don't make an excuse. Don't say, oh, I don't have a productivity coach in my office, or I can't afford a coach. I'm gonna call BS on that, because you can use YouTube. You could find and seek out and ask people their recommendations. What are your favorite podcasts? What are your favorite YouTube channels? So that's my answer. Maybe it's simplified, but I learn from seeing and watching and listening to others that are already doing it at a high level. Yep.
Okay, so we have just a couple more minutes here. So give me like the last 2 weeks, like give me like the 1 or 2 things that you see that are like absolutely you have to do this, because you're coaching so many agents, you see what they're all doing. Like what should I without a doubt be doing today to get business? Or is it working right now to generate business or juice? What's that one or two things?
You cannot be a secret agent. You can't. And it feels a little funky right now, but you still have to either call, text, social media message. I don't care how you get to that, but you have to really ask two questions. How are you doing and how can I help you? You know what? That's the quote script or dialogue. So and then the second thing is don't make it complicated. Right? So this is a contact sport. People do not buy houses every single day. They don't buy them like tennis shoes or groceries. 7, 10, there's all kinds of statistics of how many years it takes for people to buy or sell. But they know somebody else. They are 6 degrees of separation. So I would say you got to just do the work. Lead generation is a word that we often use, but be in communication with people. And then the last one I talked about before is you have to be consistent. And right now that rhythm and that routine is different. But you can't be watching Netflix. When you can be watching Netflix all day long, but your bank account's not really going to enjoy that in 3 to 6 months. So
definitely. Well, very good. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to leave the people watching with?
I think enjoy, social media platforms and closed groups like this. Make sure you are engaging in communication with our community. The cool thing is that we're all from different brokerages, but we're all wanting the same thing. We want to help our consumer, and we also want to help our industry. So I think the interesting thing is we sometimes put ourselves in different boxes because I'm at this brokerage or I'm at this brokerage. We all put our pants on the same way. We're doing the same things. So I think make sure you realize we're a community. We're in this together, and this will all pass. But it's our opportunity to say are we going to learn from this? Are we going to go back to our old habits? I hope we learn from this. So,
yeah, I love it.
And can I finally just give you a quick plug for your Motivational Mondays? Because you were ahead of other people in that you were doing that already and opening it up to just anyone. And after I had met you, I just happened to tune in as much as I could for a great start to the week mindset with Drew. So, you were doing it long before. Now, pretty much everybody's on there doing whatever we can to motivate, train, educate. But I love your Motivational Mondays. And actually, I miss them. I haven't been listening in recently.
Well, they've actually transitioned because the new trend is podcasts. So we did Mindset Mondays on Facebook Live for almost 3 years. Somebody's like, hey, podcasts are the new thing. So we now are on Mindset Monday is the podcast that I host now. And I actually interview different businesses. So it's a little bit different, not just real estate agents. It's different entrepreneurs in my local community. But I'm not asking them like, how do they make their product? What's the mindset of you being an entrepreneur? So if you want to switch over to podcasts, it's called Mindset Monday Podcast. But I appreciate that. It really was, if you watched the very first one, it was out of fear. I hated Facebook Live. And I said, you know what, to hell with this. I'm going to do Facebook Live. I look a little chunkier than I thought. And you know what? This is who I am. So you got to just embrace it. So I appreciate that. And I really got more out of it for myself than others. But I appreciate you hearing something that resonates with you.
Got very comfortable with it early on, and it really became something that I love to be a part of. So I will definitely find your podcast. Very cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I love what you guys are doing. I'm inspired by what the value you guys are bringing to this group, and again, our entire industry, because we're all in this together. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cool.
Good job.
Thank you so much, Drew. It's been great. I definitely have some good notes down here, and hopefully we see you soon. And we are actually in the process of hiring your role. For our office. We might call you and pick your brain here sometime soon, because
absolutely. Yep, happy to help in any way.
Perfect. Cool. Thanks, man. We'll see you next time.
All right, bye guys. Have a great one.